Love Never Dies, Chapter 1. Winnie Foster and Lena Bennett could not have been closer. While Lena was 4 years older than Winnie at age 19, she loved Winnie like a sister, and they could nearly always be found together. Winnie's mother considered Lena a mentor for her daughter, but to Winnie, Lena was so much more than that. Neither girl had many friends, so it was a lovely change to find someone they could be close to. Both girls agreed that the formality of them required was utterly stifling. It was exhausting having to live up to the expectations of society. It was painful to wear the horrid corsets, and it was annoying to hear Winnie's mother constantly reprimanding them, more so Winnie, for their improper behavior. Who decided what was proper and improper anyway? They would spend hours envisioning a life where they were free to live the way they wanted, free from society's rules, with a man somewhere out there to love them. School had just let out, and the two girls were eager to spend some time doing something other than schoolwork. Winnie was being pushed to work on her etiquette and classical studies. Lena was being pushed to find a husband and start making a name for herself. After all, she was almost 20, and most girls her age had already been married off to someone, or were about to be married off. But Lena wanted to marry someone she loved with all her heart. Not just anyone, just so she could please the people around her. Lena and Winnie lied down on the grass in Winnie's front yard, looking up at the beautiful clouds.
I want the man I marry to be as carefree as the wind,
Winnie said.
Someone who doesn't care about me not being proper enough.
I want a man who can provide for me and some children,
Lena replied.
But above all, I just want someone who cares for me and loves me more than himself.
Winnie turned to look at her as she propped her head on her arm.
Lena, why haven't you gotten married yet? You're the right age.
I just haven't found the right person yet.
How will you know if you found him?
When it comes to love, Winnie, sometimes you just know.
Winifred!
Winnie's mother's shrill voice pierced the air.
Lena, get off the ground. You're getting dirty. How many times must I tell you? Lena, come help Winifred practice her piano.
The two girls quietly groaned and then stood up to head inside the house. Winnie sat at the piano while Lena stood behind her. Every now and again, Lena would gently push on Winnie's shoulders to get them to relax. She tended to tense up a lot when she played, but Lena knew that was a result of trying to please her mother.
Very good, Winnie,
Lena told her when the song was done.
But make sure you relax your shoulders and keep a steady tempo throughout.
If anyone else gave her instructions like that, Winnie might have rolled her eyes and completely ignored them. But she knew that Lena hated doing this just as much as she did, and for that reason, she actually did what she was told.
Winifred, take a seat, please.
Winnie got up from the piano bench and sat across from her parents while Lena stood by her side.
Winifred, there's something we need to talk to you about,
her father told her.
A proper education gains one entree into society.
Your mother and I have given this a great deal of thought.
Middlehouse Academy for Girls in Pensford has an excellent reputation.
Lena felt her mouth go dry. Middlehouse was 500 miles away from Tree Gap. She would hardly ever see the little girl she called her best friend. How was she supposed to live in this awful place without her? Who else was there to talk to about the awful expectations of society?
Middlehouse? But that's a terrible place. Everyone says so. It's like a jail.
Nonsense. Girls emerge from there as refined young ladies, well-versed in etiquette and manners, both of which you are sorely lacking.
But I don't want to be one of those girls.
Which is precisely why you must go.
I want to stay here with Lena.
Lena is past school age now and will remain in Tree Gap to try to find a husband and start making a living. But I cannot let your unbridled nature ruin your chances for a respectable future.
Winifred, I'm sorry, but we have to do what's best for you.
Winnie looked up at Lena and then back at her parents.
I won't do it,
she said firmly as she stood up.
I'm not like those girls. I won't go.
Winifred!
I won't go.
Winnie!
She ran after the girl and saw her take off outside of the fence of her house. It was a while before Winnie finally stopped running and Lena caught up with her.
Winnie, what are you doing?
You heard them. They want to send me away from Tree Gap, away from you.
Running away isn't the answer. Let's just go back and talk about this reasonably.
Can we please stay out a little longer? I've never been in these woods before. It's so peaceful.
Lena wasn't going to deny that Winnie was right. These woods were beautiful, and neither of them had ever set foot in them before, thanks to always being busy with lessons.
All right, just a few minutes longer, and then we will return to talk about this whole mess.
The girls walked in silence, letting the crunch of the leaves below their feet be the only sound amongst them. Unfortunately, when they both went to turn back home, they quickly realized that neither of them had any idea how to do so. They took several twists and turns, but each one seemed to lead them deeper into the forest. Just when they were about to lose hope, they spotted a boy drinking water from the base of a tree. He couldn't have been much younger than Lena, or much older than Winnie. He was indeed quite handsome, and by the look on Winnie's face, Lena was certain she had come to the same conclusion. When the boy turned around, he froze at the sight of them.
How long have you both been standing there?
Not long at all. We were only walking past, and we...
Well, you shouldn't be in these parts of the woods. It's best you both turn around and go home.
Winnie and Lena looked at each other, wondering why he was so nervous around them and so eager for them to leave.
Well, go on now, get!
The boy ordered when he saw neither of the girls were moving.
Excuse me, but I own these woods, and we'll go on and get when we want to.
You own these woods.
Yes, I do.
What's your name?
Winifred. Winnie Foster.
A Foster? Well, I'll be. Is that a fact?
Winnie nodded her head, trying to appear part of the upper class, which made Lena want to burst out laughing. This was certainly a new side of her that she hadn't seen unless it was forced on her, usually by her mother.
You a Foster too?
No, I'm just a friend of the family, so to speak. My name's Lena Bennett.
Well, Winnie Foster and Lena Bennett. Like I was saying, you need to turn around and go home.
It just so happens that we were on our way home before you made your rude suggestion, and we would be happy to continue on our way. If only we knew which way to go.
In other words, you're lost.
The boy asked, looking like he was trying not to laugh.
I'll point you home.
He began to lead them away from the tree.
I'd be much obliged.
Winnie said politely. Then she spun around and began to walk to the tree.
But I want a drink first.
Wait, no.
The boy said, stopping her from walking any further.
What?
You don't want that water. It's poisoned.
I saw you drink some.
Now I'm feeling sick.
It was obvious to Lena that this was a total lie, but she couldn't help but wonder why he didn't want them drinking any of that water. What could possibly be wrong with it?
You don't look ill.
Winnie, maybe you should listen to him.
I just want some water. I'm dry as dust.
Winnie went towards the water again, but the boy roughly grabbed her and tried to pull her away from it.
I said leave it alone.
Let go of me!
Winnie screamed, wrenching herself out of his grasp.
My father will have you arrested!
Well, you're not gonna go and tell him now, are you?
Lena looked at the boy and sighed before taking off in a sprint after her friend.
Winnie!
Hey, come back!
The boy called after the both of them.
Don't run away!
Lena finally caught up with Winnie, right as they both slammed into someone's hard chest.
Where are you going so fast, missus?
The man asked them as he firmly grasped both of their arms.
Miles, wait!
The boy cried as he caught up to the two girls.
You know what Tuck said, Jesse. No exceptions.
Tuck? Who is Tuck? No exceptions about what? Lena's mind was racing, trying to figure out what in the world was going on.
Help!
Winnie screamed as she tried to get away.
Let us go!
Don't do this! Stop!
The man dragged both of them away and put all three of them on a horse with Winnie in front and Lena in the middle.
Just stay calm.
Lena said in Winnie's ear.
I'm not going to let anyone hurt you. I promise.
They continued to ride for a while before coming on a log cabin. The man, Miles, slowed the horse.
We're stopping here.
He got off first, then yanked the two girls off the horse as well.
Not a word out of either of you. Hear me?
He began dragging them towards the house as Winnie tried to squirm out of his grasp.
Miles!
An older woman explained as she ran over to them.
Oh, what are you doing? Let the poor girls go.
Miles released them, and Winnie collapsed onto the ground. Lena went quickly over to her and put her arm around her while her other hand squeezed Winnie's.
There's no reason to be frightened, young ladies.
I caught them at the spring with Jessie. She's a Foster, and the other one's a friend of theirs.
Oh, Lord. It's finally happened.
I want to go home, please. I want to go home.
Lena looked up at Miles and could have sworn that a brief flash of guilt crossed his face before taking the both of them, but it was gone just as fast as if it had never been there at all. Lena began quickly studying him and came to the conclusion that he couldn't be much older than she was. He looked angry, but she could also see that he had a sadness in his eyes that could only be seen if one looked hard enough.
There, child. Oh, please don't cry.
The woman said in the tenderest voice Lena had ever heard as she came down to their eye level.
We're not bad people. We'll take you both home just as soon as we can, I promise.
The woman stood up and faced Miles.
Miles, go find your father. He's across the lake. He'll know what to do with them.
Tell Jessie I'm gonna fix that mouth of his,
Miles said as he led the horse away. Lena sent him a death glare that he managed to catch before he was out of their sight. Lena rubbed Winnie's shoulders and held her close to her. The woman took out a little music box and began playing it.
I've heard that.
Have you? It's my little music box. I found it in the forest one day, just waiting for me, I expect. I've had it a long, long time. I put my baby boys to sleep with it every night. Gave 'em such sweet dreams.
Winnie looked about ready to burst into tears. Lena continued to hold her so she would feel safe. Winnie rested her head on Lena's shoulders, and Lena could just barely make out a few tiny sobs. Her hand rubbed Winnie's tangled hair softly. She looked over at the woman and saw her smiling at her kind actions toward the poor, frightened girl. Chapter 2. The woman, who introduced herself as May Tuck, brought the two girls into the house.
I'm sure my boys didn't mean either of you any harm,
she said as someone brought them some water. Lena had never experienced such kindness from someone in a long time. The way she spoke just made her feel so at ease despite the situation.
Then why did they bring us here this way? Why are we here?
You have every right to be upset, and I know your families must be worried sick about you.
Lena scoffed lightly, and it looked like May was about to question her, but the sound of the door opening caught their attention. Winnie jumped a little, and a frightened look crossed her face, so Lena wrapped her arm around her once more.
Where are the children?
A man, whom Lena assumed was the father, came in, followed by Miles, then Jesse. They all looked over and stared at the two girls.
They're no children, Angus.
Angus Tuck came over to them and knelt down a bit to their eye level. Both girls felt very uncomfortable under his intense gaze. The family gathered together and started talking in hushed whispers. Lena could only make out a few words here and there, but she did manage to guess that she and Winnie knew something they weren't supposed to.
Know what?
Winnie.
Lena knew that in these kinds of situations, one probably shouldn't speak unless spoken to.
Miss Foster, Miss Bennett, this is my husband, Angus Tuck. Angus, meet Miss Foster and Miss Bennett.
Angus walked over to them again.
Hello, Miss Foster,
he said, extending his hand. Winnie made no move to take it, so he held his hand out to Lena.
Miss Bennett.
Lena hesitantly shook his hand lightly, trying to appear at least a little polite, considering she was older, and it was expected of her.
They're the most important event that's taken place in this house in 80 years.
Lena's brow furrowed. 80 years? Surely there must have been some other people living in the house before them, if that was the case. Angus Tuck couldn't have been over 50.
You hungry?
Oh, well, let's all eat.
Lena looked over at Winnie, who was sitting there with an overwhelmed expression on her face. She gave her shoulder a comforting squeeze, then noticed that Jesse was smiling at Winnie. Broadly at that. And there was this look in his eye that did not go unnoticed by Lena. She and Winnie slowly got up and made their way to the table where everyone began setting out dishes. To Lena's disdain, she was forced to sit next to Miles, while Winnie sat next to Jesse. May set a plate in front of the two girls and they began passing food around. Winnie made no move to eat anything, but Lena wasn't going to pass up the chance for food, especially since it all smelled amazing. She took very, very small portions and ate quite slowly so as not to upset anyone by taking too much.
Jesse, pass your mother a plate, please.
Where's the fish?
Oh, they weren't biting for some reason.
'Cause Pa can't fish?
Don't matter. There's plenty.
May brought out some more food, and Lena took a bit more.
I catch fish. If there's no fish, there's no fish if you keep scaring the fish away.
This looks good.
Jesse exclaimed as May finished setting the food out.
Oh, isn't this nice?
She said as she took a seat.
Everyone sitting down together and having Miss Foster and Miss Bennett here. It's just like having a party.
My father will come looking for me.
Lena looked up at her and looked at her with wide eyes to try to make her stop talking. If there was anything not to say to a family of kidnappers, that was at the very top of the list.
Your father will cut down the entire forest the way things are changing around here. Make himself a very rich man.
Oh, now let's not ruin a perfectly good meal with a lot of talk.
My father has plenty of money. He'll pay anything you want.
We don't want your father's money, Miss Foster.
Then let us go home.
We will. We'll let you both go home, just like I promised.
Directly. We'll need to be able to trust them first before we're sending them back to their folks.
Trust them? We can't trust them. Or any normal people. They'll turn on us in a second.
Normal people? What made the girls normal and the family not normal? Lena was beyond confused about what was going on here. It seemed like every minute 1,000 more questions formed in her mind.
No, they won't.
Miles glared at the boy.
You're a fool. You don't even realize what you've done here.
He angrily got up from his seat and left the house. Despite it all, Lena noticed that a lot of tension seemed to die down when he went away, and it was getting stressful sitting next to the person who had taken them in the first place. She still didn't know why exactly they had been taken. What was the point of all this? She had so many questions. There was one thing she was most curious about, though. What had happened to make Miles so hard-hearted? May set up a couple of makeshift beds for Winnie and Lena in the corner, then put up a blanket to give them some privacy. She handed them both a nightgown to sleep in, so they began removing their dresses.
Angus made that cradle.
May commented, noticing Winnie looking at the wooden creation.
Brought it all the way from Scotland. Oh, it's rocked a few tucks.
She came down from the chair she had been standing on in order to pin up the blanket.
There you go. The breeze off the lake will keep you both cool all night. The boys sleep up in the loft when they're home, so you'll have your privacy.
Winnie and Lena removed their top layer, which revealed the corsets they had on. May looked at them.
Oh, those corsets look painful. May I help one of you off with it?
Winnie and Lena looked at each other for a second before Lena said quietly,
If you can get mine off, I'll get Winnie's.
May smiled and went to work on Lena's corset while Lena went to work on Winnie's.
Oh, honestly, I can't understand why women torture themselves this way. It's no way to live.
Lena allowed herself a small smile. She couldn't understand why they were forced to wear corsets either. It didn't seem right to have to wear one for the sake of beauty.
Do you have a daughter?
A granddaughter and a grandson.
She showed the two girls a picture of each of them in the locket around her neck.
Anna and Bo. Oh, Miles loved them so.
What happened?
They died. Their mother, too.
In that moment, Lena understood why Miles was so angry all the time and why she had seen that sadness in his eyes. She couldn't imagine what it was like to lose a child, two at that, and a spouse. Miles was just so young for that to happen to him. He must have been around 21 or 22. If that was the case, it must have been somewhat recent that this all happened to him.
I'm afraid the good parts of Miles died along with them. You'll have to forgive what's left of him.
I'm sorry.
Well, it's the way things are, Miss Foster. Can I call you Winnie? And Lena?
The two girls turned to the kind woman and slowly nodded. Lena hadn't felt this kind of warmth towards her in such a long time.
Do you have brothers and sisters, Winnie?
No, it's only me.
What about you, Lena?
Lena's breath hitched in her throat. The truth of the matter was that her family situation was fairly complicated, and she didn't feel like sharing it with a woman she had just met, no matter how nice she had been this whole time.
I had a little brother. He died many years ago.
I'm sorry to hear that.
Lena shook her head, signaling she wished to say no more. Winnie decided to make more conversation to get the subject off Lena, which she was more than grateful for.
My mother decided she wanted to put all her focus on making me the perfect woman in society. I think she's taking it upon herself to do the same for Lena.
May smiled.
I decided to let my boys travel. I didn't want them to be bound down by society's rules.
So where do they go?
Oh, they go to different places, do different things. Miles can do carpentry, and he's good with his hands. Jesse now, he seems to have settled himself. Of course, then, he's young yet.
The two girls' corsets were finally off, and both of them took in some very deep breaths, something they hadn't been able to do since they put that torture device on. May helped them both into the nightgowns she had given them.
Well, I hope you both will be comfortable here. It's a good feeling having more women here. Try and get some sleep now.
Thank you, Mrs. Tuck.
Oh, please, call me May.
The two girls smiled at her and watched her depart. Winnie climbed into the bed May had made for her.
Lena, why are we here?
I don't know. I guess they think we know something we're not supposed to.
Like what?
Lena shrugged her shoulders.
I have no idea.
Are we ever going to go home?
Of course. You heard May. You'll be back at home before you know it. Now, you should be getting some sleep.
Lena knelt down next to her bed and gently ran her hand along Winnie's arm. She began singing softly to her. When Lena finished singing, Winnie was asleep. Lena went over to her own bed and closed her eyes. When she had started this day, she never expected something like this to happen. But at least she was here with Winnie, and as long as they had each other, they could get through this. Chapter 3. When Lena awoke, Winnie was not in her bed. She panicked a little at first, thinking she had tried to escape and was now lost in the woods, but she soon learned that Jesse was gone too, and it didn't take long for her to put two and two together.
Lena, did you sleep well?
May said after Lena had finished dressing.
Yes, thank you.
Can you do me a favor and take these biscuits out to Miles? He's down by the lake doing some fishing.
Lena nodded and took the plate from her. She headed down to the water's edge and saw Miles with a fishing pole waiting for a bite. She nervously cleared her throat, and he turned around.
May said to bring these to you.
No thanks.
Lena took a deep breath and set the plate down next to him.
I'll just leave them here in case you change your mind.
She turned around and headed back up to the house. Over the course of the day, Lena helped May do some cooking and cleaning around the house. Miles stayed out for the most part, but when he did come in, the plate she had given him was empty. She smiled a little when he wasn't looking. At one point, the two of them made eye contact, but neither allowed it to last for very long. Miles still made Lena very nervous, even though she knew a bit more about his history. He was just so cold towards everyone that it was hard to like him. At this point, despite what May had told her, she still felt hatred towards Miles for kidnapping her and Winnie. May looked at the both of them, taking note of their small, wordless interaction. When Miles left again, she went over to Lena.
He still frightens you, doesn't he?
Lena just barely nodded, avoiding eye contact.
I understand, but Miles really does care about us. And the longer you talk with him, the more you'll see that what he did was just to protect this family.
Lena remained silent, thinking about May's words. But how could she ever learn to like someone who only seemed to feel hate towards her and stole her away from everything she ever knew? When Jesse and Winnie returned, Winnie looked like a whole new person. She was eagerly smiling and laughing, and it didn't take much for Lena to guess why. Sure enough, when the two girls were about to go to sleep that night, Winnie explained to her that Jesse took her to his Eiffel Tower, a very high cliff that they could climb to the top. Lena sang softly to her to get her to sleep again, but Lena stayed awake for several minutes staring up at the ceiling. While she was glad that Winnie was okay, and she didn't have to worry about her anymore, she herself was a different story. She hadn't had anyone to bond with like Winnie and Jesse, and while everyone aside from Miles seemed nice, she still didn't want to be away from what she knew. Winnie began spending nearly all of her time with Jesse, while Lena stayed back with Angus, May, and sometimes Miles. May was the nicest woman Lena had ever met. As the days went by and Lena helped her with the chores around the house, the two women talked and conversation came quite easy to her. They hardly ever ran out of things to talk about. The longer they talked, the more comfortable she became. Sometimes Lena would sit outside and just watch Angus make small creations out of wood. It was so mesmerizing to watch him transform a block of nothing into something with extremely intricate designs and patterns. Miles was another story. No matter what Lena did or how nice she was despite the fact she couldn't stand him, he was always rude to her. He never looked her way, he ignored her as much as possible, and when he did talk to her, he used a tone that suggested that it was the last thing he wanted to do.
Lena,
May said to her as she swept up the floor.
take this out to Miles. He hasn't eaten all day, and he needs some food.
Lena nodded and took the basket of food for May and then headed outside.
Miles, I brought some food for you.
I don't want any food.
May said you haven't eaten all day. You're gonna make yourself sick.
Miles just laughed, and she couldn't understand why the idea of him becoming ill was so amusing.
Will you please just eat a little something? It would ease her mind.
I said I didn't want any. Just take it back and leave me alone.
That was the last straw for Lena. She could not handle his attitude any longer. She slammed the basket down on the ground and took a step towards him.
You're hurting. I get that. May told me what happened with you and your family. But you should look beyond your own pain and realize that you are not the only one suffering.
Miles looked at her incredulously, shocked that she was talking to him in such a manner.
My mother gave birth to a little boy when I was only 3 years old. An hour later, he died from complications. I had a brother for only an hour. And after that, my mother and father couldn't look at me because I only reminded them of what they lost. They sent me off to boarding school at 3 years old so they didn't have to look at me anymore. Eventually, they couldn't afford to send me to school, so I was forced to come back home. When I was there, they both ignored me all the time. So you should consider yourself lucky that you at least have a mother and a father and a brother who love you. It's more than I ever had.
Lena whipped around and headed back up to the house, wiping hot tears off her cheeks. She hadn't meant for all of that to come out, but she was sick and tired of Miles acting the way he was. She may not have experienced that kind of loss, but she didn't even know what it was like to have anyone out there who loved her. At least he had a family. She never even had that. Lena stayed out of everyone's sight until she had calmed down. The last thing she wanted to do was to explain why she was upset.
Are you all right, Lena?
Winnie asked as they prepared to go to sleep.
Hmm?
Lena said as she turned around.
You've been acting strange all day.
Lena sighed and sat on Winnie's bed next to her.
I told Miles about me.
You mean everything?
Everything.
Why?
He was just being so rude to me that I kind of just snapped.
Well, May told us what he's been through. It's been hard on him.
I know.
Winnie hugged her friend, fully realizing that sharing her history with someone was not an easy thing for her to do. Chapter 4. Winnie continued to bond with Jesse as the days went on while Lena stayed back with May. Miles had become nearly silent ever since Lena's outburst towards him. Every time she looked at him, he looked almost guilty, which made her feel guilty herself. There was one day when she went out into the forest to try to ease her mind about the whole situation. She was almost jealous of Winnie for getting the chance to explore with someone like Jesse, who really seemed to care for her. She hadn't gone very far when the smallest hiss made her stomach drop to her feet. She looked down, and there on the ground looking up at her was a snake. She had no idea if it was poisonous or not, but she wasn't going to take her chances. Keeping her eyes on it, she ever so slowly began to back away from it. In turn, it began slithering towards her. It reared its head up and looked like it was preparing to strike. Lena began backing away faster, but it whipped its head at her and she immediately felt pain in her ankle. Suddenly, Miles appeared and grabbed the snake around its neck. She watched as he wrestled with it a bit before killing it. Then he ran over to her and grasped her by the shoulders.
Are you all right?
When she didn't respond, he said urgently,
Lena, you have to tell me. Did it bite you?
Lena looked down and lifted the bottom of her dress up a little. There, just above her ankle, were 2 holes that were dripping blood. She looked back up at him with terror in her eyes. Then she saw black and fell over. Miles quickly caught her, then hefted the unconscious girl up into his arms and gently rushed her back to the cabin.
Miles!
May called when she saw him approaching with Lena in his arms.
What happened?
Snake bite.
He answered as he took in the cabin and placed her down in the bed.
It wasn't poisonous.
Even so, I'll need to clean it and bandage her up. Grab me a couple of dish towels and some cold soap and water.
What happened to Lena?
Winnie cried, running into the cabin with Jesse.
She's been bitten by a snake.
What?
Miles brought May the soap, water, towels.
She got a snake bite?
Winnie, I'm going to need you to calm down. I promise you she's going to be fine.
May took one of the towels and cleaned off the snake bite on Lena's ankle, while Winnie anxiously gripped Lena's hand.
Miles,
She said once she had finished.
Bandage her ankle while I clean this up.
Miles took some cloth and wrapped it around the bite mark. May then came back over and placed a cold cloth on Lena's forehead.
She'll be okay,
May said to Winnie. Towards the end of the day, when the sky was turning to dark blue, Lena's eyes slowly opened.
Lena!
Winnie exclaimed, hugging her tightly. Lena softly groaned.
What happened?
She asked of all the people standing over her.
You were bitten by a snake. If it wasn't for Miles finding you and bringing you back here...
You helped me?
He simply nodded to her.
Luckily for you, the snake wasn't venomous.
So why did I faint?
I suppose it was just the shock of it all. But don't you worry. You are going to be just fine. You need to rest now.
Winnie and May stayed by her side while the rest of them left her to sleep. May pulled out her music box and began playing it to soothe Lena and help her rest easier.
Miles?
Lena called before he departed. He turned back to her.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
By the time she awoke again, Lena felt better than ever. She smiled as she realized Winnie had once more gone out with Jesse. She slowly got up out of the bed, but once she stood up, her bad ankle faltered and she fell to the floor.
Lena!
She looked up and saw Miles rushing over to her. He gently helped her up, then he put her arm around his neck and helped her limp over to the chair by the table.
I wouldn't walk on that until it's had a chance to heal some more. You're probably hungry. Do you want something to eat?
She nodded at him and he prepared a plate for her with a couple of pancakes May had made that morning.
Thanks.
Miles nodded at her and then turned to leave.
Miles, how did you know where I was?
I had to make sure you weren't trying to escape and go running back to the town.
There's more to it than that, isn't there?
Miles sighed and took a seat across from Lena.
I haven't been able to stop thinking about what you said.
I'm sorry. I wasn't trying to say that my situation was worse than yours.
I know. The point is that you've been through a lot too. It's not that either one of our situations are worse, but that they've both hurt us. And that's why I wanted to apologize. I didn't realize you had been through so much. I can't imagine what it's been like to grow up like that.
I can't imagine what it's like to lose the ones you love so much.
For the first time since Lena had been taken, she was beginning to see that she and Miles were a lot more alike than she initially thought. Once Lena's bite was fully healed and she was able to walk on her own, she went outside to breathe in the fresh forest air.
Lena,
she heard Miles say as he walked over to her. He held out his hand.
Come with me. I want to show you something.
Lena looked at him. Sure, she was thankful he saved her from the snake, but that didn't mean she was fully ready to just completely trust him. He had still taken her away from her home and her life. She couldn't just pretend that never happened.
Please.
She hesitantly took his hand and allowed him to escort her wherever it was they were going.
Where are you taking me?
Just wait a bit longer.
When they had walked for a little while more, Miles turned to her and put his finger to his lips, signaling her to be quiet. She slowly nodded, wondering what in the world he had planned. Miles quietly stepped closer to one of the numerous trees and motioned her over. She finally saw what he was looking at. A small bird's nest rested on top of one of the branches with 3 speckled eggs inside. Miles gently picked one of them up and handed it to her.
Just think, a little bird is sitting in there, waiting to come out.
Suddenly, Lena felt the egg move and part of it cracked in her palm. She gave a small gasp and then a smile to Miles, and they both watched as the bird inside ever so slowly made its way out of its little shell. When it finally made it, it shook its wet feathers and hopped around on her palm. Lena gently rubbed its small head with her finger. That had been the most incredible thing she had ever seen in her life. Being able to witness new life like that was nothing she had ever experienced before. She gently put the small little bird back inside its nest to wait for its siblings to hatch.
Wow.
When she looked over at Miles, she saw something she never expected to see. There was a smile on his face.
So that's what a smile looks like on you. I like it. You should smile more often.
And that was when the walls Miles and Lena alike had built up around them finally began to come down. Chapter 5. Lena began noticing a small change in Miles. It was hard to put into words exactly, but he was definitely different than when she had first met him. They exchanged few words throughout the next couple of days. However, it seemed that they didn't need any words to communicate. It was almost like their eyes said everything to each other. It was strange, but she found herself growing to actually like it. Lena was doing some chores around the house to help May, but her hair was driving her crazy. It kept falling into her face, which forced her to pause her activity to tuck it behind her ear, only for it to fall right back.
Lena, would you like me to help you with your hair?
Lena smiled and nodded. May directed her to a seat and began brushing out her hair. Lena had never had anyone do this for her before. Her mother certainly wasn't going to help her, so she had taught herself to fix her hair up. Half the time it didn't look very presentable, but there was nothing else she could do. Here, with May brushing her hair, she felt so relaxed and at ease. May took her time brushing it out, not in a hurry, just like with everything else they did. Then she began to pin it in different ways.
You know,
she said to Lena as she continued working,
I believe that you've done something for Miles that none of us have been able to do.
What's that?
You've opened him up again. He's changed since you and Winnie both arrived here. It's a much-needed change, too.
I just wish I didn't have to get bitten by a snake for this change to start.
I know you're not exactly here of your own accord, but it's been quite nice to have the company. We don't usually get visitors. Miles told me about what you said to him a while ago.
Lena immediately felt incredibly guilty.
I'm sorry. I shouldn't have invaded in his personal life. I should have held my tongue.
Lena, you don't need to keep quiet about who you are and where you come from. I'm sorry to hear that you've had such a hard time at home.
I've learned to accept it.
Though the circumstances are quite unusual, you will always have a home here with us, Tux.
Lena paused and no words came to her mind. May had just told her that she had a home here. A real home with people who cared about her. May finished Lena's hair and stood in front of her to admire her work. She had made 2 braids that connected in the back and looked like one long continuous braid while the rest of her curly hair hung down her back.
There's just one more thing.
She took 3 very small white flowers and intertwined them throughout her braid. Then she gently took Lena's chin in her hands and said to her,
You look beautiful.
Lena suddenly forgot how to breathe. That was the first time anyone had ever called her beautiful.
Thank you.
Why don't you go outside and take a break for a little while?
Lena nodded and began to walk around outside the cabin.
Lena!
She looked over and saw him sitting in the little canoe she had seen him and Angus take out on the water several times. When he saw her and her new look May had given her, there was a very noticeable pause. She gave him a small, bashful smile and began to notice her cheeks getting a little warmer. Wait a second. Her cheeks were getting warmer?
Get in,
Miles said, shaking them both out of their reveries. Lena was about to decline, but then decided that it couldn't hurt anything. Miles took her hand and helped her sit across from him in the canoe. Then he began rowing out, and they stopped in the middle of the lake.
So beautiful out here.
it's a great place to think. Or just get some peace and quiet.
I love it.
They sat in silence for a little while as Lena took in her surroundings. She leaned over and put her hand in the water, feeling the coolness of it send a small tingle through her arm. She'd only been to a real lake once or twice while at boarding school, but that was nothing compared to the crystal clear water beneath her.
You're so lucky to get to live in a place like this. It almost feels like nothing is wrong with the world and everything is how it should be.
I've never thought about it that way before.
Well, maybe you should stop focusing on yourself and take the time to look at what's around you. And I mean really look.
Lena Bennett, you are unlike any other girl I've ever met.
Is that a good thing or a bad thing?
It's most definitely a good thing.
The two ended up talking for a long time, and it was only when May called them in for dinner did they realize that they had spent 3 hours out on the lake. The next day, Lena was outside watching Angus craft a block of wood into whatever creation he had in mind.
Would you like to help, Miss Bennett?
Oh no, I would just mess everything up.
Nonsense. Come over here.
Lena slowly did as she was told. Angus took her hands and put them on top of the carving tool he was using to shape the wood before he began the actual designs.
Shave off the top part of this wood to make it smooth and easier to work with.
He showed her how to use the tool, and then left her to do it herself. Beads of sweat began forming on her forehead, but she kept going, actually enjoying the feeling of being able to get dirty.
Not so rough.
She heard behind her. Miles stood behind her and put his hands on hers.
Gently run it over the wood.
Lena felt herself blush at their close proximity, but she couldn't deny that she kind of liked it. Angus came back out soon after and examined the wood.
Perfect.
He took the newly formed wood and handed it to her. He then handed her a small carving knife.
Now you need to shape it down to what you want it to be.
Well, what is it supposed to be?
Anything you want.
Lena looked at it and began attempting to shape it into a fish. She began quietly singing to herself.
Oh, so it's you who's been singing downstairs every night.
Miles said, making her jump a little.
You've heard me?
Hard not to hear it. It's a small house.
I'm sorry if I've been disturbing you. I was only trying to help Winnie fall asleep.
I'm not complaining. It helped me fall asleep, too. Which is saying something, because I've been having trouble sleeping lately. That is, until you got here.
Lena's cheeks grew warmer again.
Thank you.
After a few hours, the wood she was working with resembled a trout somewhat. In fact, for someone who had never even looked at a block of wood, much less carved one, it was quite impressive. She took the tip of the knife and made a small eye on either side of it.
Not bad, Lena.
Angus said as he looked over.
Not bad at all. Especially for a beginner.
He handed her some sandpaper.
Now smooth it all out and you'll be done.
Lena rubbed the coarse material over her fish until she was sure it was impossible to get a splinter by touching it. She rubbed her thumb across her creation and felt a tingle run through her hand.
Very good.
Angus praised as he looked over it once more.
This deserves a place of honor.
He took the piece of wood inside and placed it on the mantel above the fireplace. Lena felt something that she had never felt before. She couldn't exactly explain what it was, but she could definitely say that she really liked the feeling. Chapter 6. That night, neither Winnie nor Jesse nor Miles were at the cabin. May and Angus didn't seem worried, but the same couldn't be said for Lena. Though she knew there was probably no cause for concern, she couldn't help but wonder where everyone was. When the two adults were busy, she wandered outside into the forest, hoping to find some sign that the three of them were okay. Her heart was pounding, and she was quite nervous about running into any kinds of animals. She certainly didn't want a repeat of her snake adventure. Lena turned to look behind her, and when she turned back around, she ran straight into Miles' hard chest.
Miles!
What are you doing out here?
She could smell alcohol in his breath.
You shouldn't be out here alone.
Miles, you're drunk.
I'm fine.
Yeah. Come on, I'll take you back to the cabin.
They had only walked for a little bit before Miles turned his head. She followed his line of sight and saw the faintest glow from a fire. That must have been Winnie and Jesse. Miles started walking towards it.
Wait, Miles!
She followed them, and they managed to hear some of Jesse's conversation with Winnie.
You are the first human I've ever met. I want to know the truth.
Jesse said to Winnie.
Jesse Tuck, you're the first human I've ever met that I've ever wanted to...
She gently kissed him on the lips.
To do that.
Jesse put his hand to her head, and they kissed again. Lena couldn't help but smile as she saw the girl she could almost call a sister finally find someone she loved. Her thoughts traveled back to when they had been on the grass discussing the prospect of finding someone who loved them.
Winnie, listen.
Jesse said when they pulled apart.
Remember the giant oak tree at the center of the wood where we met? Little spring bubbling up you saw me drink from? You remember when I told you I was 104 years old?
Winnie nodded slowly.
Well, it's the honest truth. I'm gonna live forever. Never gonna change. Same with Miles, Tuck, and May. Something happened to us. As far as I know, I'm gonna be 17 till the end of the world.
Lena's head began spinning. Jesse Tuck was actually 104? So how old did that make Miles? And how on earth did they still look this way? While it seemed that many of her questions were answered, 1,000 more formed.
It's the spring, Winnie. The water, something's wrong with it. It stops you right where you are. If you had a drink of it today, you just stay just like you are.
Miles chose that time to reveal his and Lena's hiding spot.
Don't you wish he told you before you kissed him? Did he tell you immortality isn't all the preachers crack it up to be?
Hey, leave her alone, Miles.
Oh, now. You want her to hear it, Jesse boy. She's the first person you want to tell the truth to.
You just don't want me to have what you lost.
Jesse.
Stop this. Both of you. And tell us the truth. We want to know.
Miles took a couple of steps forward, while Lena stood next to where Winnie was sitting and began his story.
We all had a drink. Except for the cat. That's important. The water tasted like heaven. Floated over your tongue like a cloud. Tuck carved a T in the trunk to mark where we'd been. We moved on west, looking for a place to settle down. Put up a house for May and Tuck, and a little shed for Jesse and me. That was the first time we figured there was something peculiar. Jesse fell 30 feet, landed right on his neck. He was up on his feet again before May could work up a good cry. Didn't hurt him a bit. No broken bones, nothing.
Both Lena and Winnie took a deep breath, trying to take all of this in.
That's not all.
Miles continued, noticing their expressions.
Not by a long shot. Things began to happen. Some brush poppers mistook May's horse for a deer. The thing is, bullets didn't kill him. Barely even left a mark. Then Tuck got bitten by a rattlesnake, and you know what? He didn't die. But the cat did. Of old age.
Miles paused and began fiddling with the ring on his finger.
And Miles got married.
He said softly, lost in the memory.
Bo. Little Anna.
Lena had never seen Miles like this before. He was so vulnerable.
Tuck figured it early on. It's the spring. We all drank from it, even the horse. Had to be. The source of our changelessness. I begged her to come back. For me. And find the spring and drink from it. The children, too. It was our only hope to be together. She made up her mind and I'd sold my soul to the devil. And she left me. She took my babies with her.
Lena felt the tears begin to form in her eyes. She had just been given a whole new definition of what Miles had been through. It was no wonder he was so hard and closed off.
Everyone pulled away after that. There was talk of witchcraft, black magic. I went looking for wars to fight, and I saw brave men die at Veracruz, and then Gettysburg. Thousands, in the blink of an eye.
War changed people. Someone who had already been through so much put himself through even more pain.
But not me. I couldn't die.
Tears formed in his own eyes, and his voice cracked.
Like little Anna. The influenza took her before she was 15. And Bo. He'd be almost 80 now if he were still alive. And my sweet young bride. She died in an insane asylum. Old and alone. But I'm still here. I'm still here.
He turned away and began to walk off. Lena looked at Winnie and Jesse for a second before quickly wiping away a tear and running after him.
Miles.
He turned to face her. She had never known that someone like him could be acting the way he was at this moment.
I am so sorry. I had no right to yell at you when I didn't know the whole story.
He said nothing as she slowly approached him and took his hand in hers.
You have been through so much more than one person should ever have to go through.
There was a silence following those words, but it wasn't awkward. On the contrary, it was a much-needed silence. What was there to say? The two of them returned to the campfire, and that's where the four of them stayed until morning. When they all returned back to the cabin, they were met by May and Angus. One look told them that they both knew Winnie and Lena knew their secret.
Winnie Foster, Lena Bennett, you both are the only other people in the world who know about us. We'll have to have a talk.
He took Winnie's hand from Jesse's and then took Lena's and led them out into the canoe where Miles and Lena had just sat a couple days before. He began rowing and stopped once they were in the middle of the lake.
Look around you. It's teeming life. It's flowers and trees and frogs. It's all part of the wheel. It's always changing. It's always growing. Like you two. Your lives are never the same. You were once children. Now, Winnie, you are about to become a woman. One day you'll grow up and you'll do something important. You'll have children, maybe. And you, Lena, are already a woman. You are on your way to making a name for yourself and understanding more about what it means to be an adult. You've taken care of Winnie as if she were family to you. You've greatly matured from the young girl you once were. And then one day, you'll both go out, just like the flame of a candle. You'll make way for a new life. That's a certainty. That's the natural way of things.
Lena loved the way Angus said things. She had never had someone tell her that she was grown up and mature. It was nice.
And then there's us. What we tucks have, you can't call it living. We just are. We're like rocks stuck in the side of a stream. Listen to me. Girls, you know a dangerous secret. If people find out about the spring, they'll trample all over each other to get to that water. There's one thing I've learned about people. Many will do anything not to die, and they'll do anything to keep from living their life. Do either of you want to stay stuck as you are right now, forever? I've just got to make you understand.
Lena had no idea if she would want to drink from the spring or not. It was one thing to stay young, but it was another thing to stay young forever.
I don't want to die. Is that wrong?
No. No human does. But it's part of the wheel. The same as being born. You can't have living without dying. Don't be afraid of death, girls. Be afraid of the unlived life.
Lena looked at the man in front of her and the girl beside her. When the summer started, she certainly had no idea that she would eventually be questioning whether she wanted to live forever or not. The three of them stayed out a little longer, but Lena couldn't shake the uneasy feeling that they were being watched. The next day, Lena decided to head out into the woods for some time. Winnie had told her about the waterfall, and she wanted to see it for herself. It didn't take long to find, as it was rather close by. The water looked so cool and refreshing and clear. Looking around her to see if she was alone, and finding that she was, she dove right in. It felt amazing, and she immediately felt so much better. She swam around for a little while, taking in the amazing fresh water with the loud falls behind her.
You shouldn't be out here alone.
Lena quickly turned around to find Miles standing in the same place where she had jumped in.
I can take care of myself.
Oh yeah? You proved that when you got bitten by that snake.
It was one time.
Miles just laughed. Then, to her surprise, he dove into the water, clothes and all. Lena smiled and waited for him to come back up. But he didn't.
Miles?
She called, spinning around in the water, trying to find him.
Miles?
Suddenly, she felt a hand on her ankle and she was pulled underwater. When she came back up, Miles was laughing hard. She splashed water at him angrily.
Don't do that!
But she couldn't help but smile, too.
You know what? It was worth it to see you laugh.
How did you find this place?
Winnie told me about it. She and Jesse came here a couple days ago. That surprised me, actually, because Winnie can't swim. But I'm sure Jesse took that as an opportunity to flirt with her.
I'm sure he did.
I never thought that Winnie would fall in love with someone here. She wasn't happy about being brought here in the first place, and I could barely calm her down.
She noticed a guilty look across Miles' face.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean anything by that.
No, I'm sorry. I jumped to conclusions when I first saw you both. I was only doing what Tuck told us to do.
I understand. I'm sure Winnie is quite happy you did so now. And I am too.
The two of them made eye contact and went closer to each other. Before Lena knew what was happening, Miles pressed his hand to the back of her head and pulled her closer to him until their lips were touching. The kiss was gentle and kind, and everything Lena had ever wanted as they both treaded water near the small little waterfall. Chapter 7. It didn't take long for the rest of the Tuck family and Winnie to realize that Miles and Lena fancied each other as much as Winnie and Jesse. It was certainly a shock to them all because they never thought that Miles could move on from his first love, but there he was all the same. Late that night, when everyone in the house was asleep, screaming loud enough to shatter the windows pierced the air. Winnie ran over to the screaming girl in bed next to her.
What's going on?
Miles asked frantically as the whole family ran to join Winnie next to Lena's bed.
She gets night terrors sometimes. They're rare, but they happen.
Lena continued screaming and thrashing around in her bed, threatening to hit Winnie at any moment.
What can we do?
It'll pass soon. All we can do is wait.
Miles went next to her in bed and grabbed her arms before she hurt anyone, including herself. When she stopped trying to hit the air, he placed his hand on the side of her face and gently stroked it.
Shh, shh.
The family watched in awe at Miles' gentle touch. It had been so long since he had been capable of acting like this. Eventually, Lena calmed down and resumed a peaceful sleep.
She's fine now. You can go back to sleep.
Angus, May, and Jesse started walking away, but Miles didn't move.
I think I'll stay just a little longer.
The three Tucks exchanged surprised glances, but no one chose to say anything. Miles leaned over her and pressed a gentle kiss to her forehead. The next morning, Miles found Lena washing some clothes in the lake water.
How was your night?
She turned to look at him with a smile.
It was fun.
You don't remember anything unusual?
No. Did something happen?
You had, what did Winnie call it? A night terror.
Lena's eyes closed and she sighed.
I did. I'm so sorry. I probably woke everyone up, didn't I?
No one's upset. You couldn't control it.
It really doesn't happen often, but every now and again, something happens in the middle of the night and I panic. But I never remember it when I wake up. I'm so sorry.
Miles put his hands on her shoulders.
Lena, you don't have to apologize. If you have night terrors, you have night terrors. And that's okay. It doesn't change anything about you.
Lena smiled and the two of them shared a gentle kiss. Unfortunately, their luck was quickly running out. Angus brought everyone inside the cabin that evening and they gathered in the living area. Miles next to Lena and Jesse next to Winnie.
Girls, we've all enjoyed your company, some more than others.
The four youngest quietly laughed, but no one liked where this was going.
However, as Winnie said on her first night with us, her father is looking for her. And I know that right now, they are very close to finding her. If anyone does find either of you, this whole family will be sent to jail for kidnapping.
Well, we'll just tell everyone that you didn't kidnap us.
Angus gave her a sad smile.
I'm afraid no one will listen. Their minds are set against us. We are going to take you both home, and then we will have to be on our way.
Lena's heart sank. Home was the last place she wanted to go, especially after living in what she considered paradise with such kind people, and someone her heart belonged to. But she also knew that Angus was right. No one in Tree Gap would let them go after this.
We understand,
Lena said softly, trying to be the mature one. She noticed May looking at her even more sadly than Angus was. It dawned on her that May knew about her life at home, and she probably didn't want the girl to have to go back to such a lifestyle.
We best start packing up as much as we can.
All members of the Tuck family began loading up as much as they could in crates and trunks. Lena ended up going out onto the porch and looking out at the beautiful water. She would give anything to stay here with the Tucks.
Lena?
May said softly as she joined the girl on the porch.
I know you don't want to go back.
You're certainly right about that.
If we're being honest, I don't want you to go back either. It's been nice not being the only woman in the house. But more than that, you and Winnie have been like daughters to me. The daughters I never got.
Lena looked over at the woman with tears forming in her eyes faster than she could control. After living with a family who wanted nothing to do with her, she had found someone who really loved her as a daughter. The two women embraced as tears began rolling down her cheeks. Lena helped the Tucks pack everything up they needed, as Winnie and Jesse tried to force out a painful goodbye.
It isn't fair, Tuck,
May said quietly as Miles loaded up a couple of trunks into their cart.
No, it isn't. But when has life ever been fair?
Those words could not be more true when it came to Lena's life. Miles hopped down from the cart and took Lena's hand in his.
You've taught me how to love again,
he said quietly as he pressed his forehead into hers.
I never thought anyone could do that.
You've made me feel special.
Because you are.
Miles gently kissed her when they heard a man's voice say,
Forgive me for interrupting such a tender moment.
The four adults turned to find a balding man in a faded yellow suit.
Hello, Winifred, Lena. Everyone's been so worried about you.
Lena lightly scoffed. Maybe everyone was worried about Winnie, but Lena? She couldn't find it in her to believe that.
I'm relieved to find you both so well.
You know this man?
I met him once.
I haven't. Who are you?
The man did not answer her, for it was at that time that Angus and May had noticed the stranger's presence.
Hello, Mr. Tuck. You have no idea what a pleasure it is to meet you.
You're the man who's been following my boys. Been expecting you.
Yes, and here I am. Tell me, is it a relief to finally be discovered? Over a century of hiding must have taken its toll on you.
Who are you? And how do you know so much about us?
I first heard about your family from my grandmother. She knew a woman in a mental facility who used to rant and ramble about a family who never grew old and never died. This woman, she used to call out a name. What was it now? Anna.
Lena's widened eyes looked over at Miles. It had to have been his past wife and daughter the stranger was talking about, and no doubt the talk of them was cutting into him deep. She took his hand in hers and began squeezing it. His eyes were locked onto this strange man who knew too much about the family.
Crazy old woman. kept on talking about a music box. It seems the melody had a calming effect on her children. I'm sure you know it, Mrs. Tuck.
He began whistling the same melody from May's music box that Lena had heard nearly every day since she had been brought here.
You have no right to come to our house and bring us such pain.
There, good mother, I mean no harm.
Tell us, sir.
Angus demanded as he walked towards him.
What is it you want?
Well, you see, the Fosters have given me these woods in exchange for bringing young Winifred and Lena back home. I have the papers all signed and legal. Gives me the rights to the forest and everything in it. Don't be alarmed. I'll let you stay here on my land if you prove cooperative.
Cooperative?
The man nodded slowly.
I want you to take me to the spring.
Now his intentions were clear. He knew about the spring and he wanted some. Lena's hand squeezed Miles even tighter, and she could feel his arm around her waist pulling her closer to him protectively.
I don't know what you mean.
Don't insult me, Mr. Tuck. It's immediately clear to me that the water's powers have been wasted on unimaginative people like you. I intend to make this fountain of youth, as the simpletons would call it, available to those who deserve it. For a price, of course.
Angus slowly stepped towards the man.
You'll die of old age before I'll take you.
Is that so?
The man whipped out a gun from his bag and grabbed Winnie, aiming it at her head.
Then perhaps Winifred will.
Winnie!
No!
The man took the gun and shot Jesse right in the stomach.
Jesse!
Lena tried to go to him, but Miles held her back. Slowly, Jesse stood back up. Now, after what Miles had told them, both girls knew that none of the Tucks could get hurt. But seeing that actually happen in person was something entirely different than just hearing about it.
Yes, bravo.
He started walking backwards with Winnie as everyone but May stood on the porch watching the unfolding scene in horror.
Come now, Winifred. I'm feeling thirsty. Show me where the spring is. Perhaps I'll let you have a drink. After all, then we can spend eternity together.
Suddenly, May took a shotgun and whipped the man on the back of the head with it. Lena flinched in surprise as she felt Miles' hand around her waist tighten. The man slowly sank to the ground with Winnie on top of him. The strike had killed him instantly. Jesse and Lena ran to Winnie.
Winnie, come here.
Jesse said as he helped her up.
It's okay. I got you.
Winnie clutched onto Jesse while Lena pressed her hands onto her back and shoulders. She had almost lost the girl who was like a sister to her. She couldn't even fathom the thought. Agnes went over to May, who was sobbing on the ground at what she had just done, and knelt down to hug her and comfort her. Suddenly the sound of dogs and shouts rang out in the quiet forest air.
Pa!
They listened as the shouts and barks got louder.
There they are.
Everyone looked over and found a bunch of men swarming around them like spiders.
Go.
Angus bolted up on the porch and went inside the cabin.
Jesse, come on.
Miles said to his brother. Jesse started after them when Winnie suddenly stopped.
It's my father.
Let's go.
Lena ran up to him right before he hopped up onto his horse and firmly pressed her lips to his in a goodbye kiss. Jesse and Winnie held hands as long as they were able to before he was forced to get on the horse with Miles, and the two of them rode off. Smoke started pouring from the house, and Lena realized that Angus had set it on fire to prevent them from finding anything they shouldn't. Winnie's father ran up to the girl and embraced her tightly.
You're all right. You're all right. We found you. You're safe.
He looked over to Lena and touched her arm.
Are you all right?
She nodded a little before he went back to hugging his daughter. Lena's parents were nowhere in sight. She wasn't the least bit surprised, but she found that she was still hurt. Chapter 8. Lena found herself in Winnie's parlor not long after they were back home with the rest of Winnie's family and the Tree Gap judge. Both girls were silent.
We just want to understand what happened. Girls, try, please.
Lena and Winnie made eye contact. Lena sighed and gave her a small nod. Winnie turned back to her family.
They didn't kidnap us. We were with them because we wanted to be.
Winnie's mother snapped her fan shut.
She doesn't know what she's saying.
The Tucks were kind to us. They're our friends.
If they didn't kidnap you, why on earth did that woman club that man over the head with a shotgun?
Because May Tuck was protecting me.
That man had a gun to Winnie's head. May saved her life.
Doesn't matter anyway.
The judge said.
That fella died. It's a murder charge now. I didn't much like the man, but that won't stop that poor woman from hanging. Misses are our witnesses. They'll have to testify.
Winnie's mother looked about ready to faint as she left the room. The judge looked at Lena and took something out of his pocket.
That man wanted me to give you something. Wouldn't take no for an answer.
Lena gasped as he handed her the little wooden fish Angus and Miles had helped her carve. While her father escorted the judge out, Winnie and Lena went up to Winnie's room. Winnie sat on her bed, lost in thought. Lena sat next to her and took her hand.
I miss them too.
The two girls embraced for a long time and refused to let go. When Lena left, she journeyed back into the woods and found the same spring from what seemed like centuries ago. Memories flooded back to her all at once from when they first met Jesse to when Miles kidnapped them. She couldn't help but smile as she remembered that she now had feelings for someone she used to hate. Lena went up to the water and put some of it in a small vial. Truth be told, she was contemplating taking it, but it was a big decision and she needed some time. For now, she had to face the tasks set for her at hand, and that included making sure Winnie wasn't alone throughout all of this. That night, Lena was lying in bed staring up at the ceiling. A huge storm was starting up outside that made her uneasy.
Lena.
She heard a familiar voice call out in a whisper. She turned her head to find Miles at her window.
Miles, what are you doing here?
We're in trouble. If May goes to the gallows, she won't die. Everyone will discover our secret. We need to get them out of there. Jesse's getting Winnie right now. I'll explain the plan on the way there.
Lena nodded.
I'll be right out.
Miles disappeared and Lena threw on a nearly translucent cover over the top of her white nightgown. Then she grabbed the vial of the spring water she had gotten early and tucked it into the pocket. Quietly, she nimbly went down the stairs without waking anyone and slipped outside. Miles explained to her what she and Jesse were going to do and what Winnie and Lena would do. They all met up not far from the sheriff's station.
You know what to do?
Miles asked the both of them. Both girls nodded and got ready. Miles and Jesse put on the clothes they wore when they traveled, in addition to the swords they owned.
Let's do this,
Lena said to Winnie. The two girls turned and bolted into the sheriff's station. They began banging on the door where the night guard was, yelling and crying together. When the night guard finally opened the door, the two girls bolted inside.
Help us! You have to stop them! They're after us!
Miss Foot, who's after you two?
The night guard asked sleepily.
The people who kidnap us, they're going to take us away again. Our parents can stop them. They're right outside.
Don't let them take us away again, please.
You have to stop them. They'll kill us if they find us.
The night guard grabbed his gun.
Please, they're going to kill us, please.
Stay right there. I'll handle this.
He left and the two girls smiled at each other broadly.
Help!
Winnie called out with a smile. Lena looked at her friend.
You get May and Angus, and I'll go keep watch.
You got it.
Lena went to the door and stood behind the night guard to watch what happened. She had to admit that both of the boys looked pretty intimidating dressed in such dark clothes in the middle of a storm with their swords out.
Come out and meet your doom. Hell is upon you.
Lena couldn't help but roll her eyes at his extremely overdramatic words.
Stop right there.
The boys continued to approach him in a dramatic fashion.
You're under arrest. Stay back now. I'll shoot.
He took his shotgun and shot Jesse twice. Miles opened up his jacket in an invitation. The night guard took it and shot Miles twice as well. Lena couldn't help but wince as the bullets came in contact with him. The two boys lay motionless on the ground for a few seconds before they stood up without a scratch. The night guard took one look at them and ran off.
And he's supposed to be the brave one.
Angus, May, and Winnie ran up behind her.
The coast is clear.
Miles got the horses in the cart and they all prepared to leave.
My dear, sweet Winnie and Lena,
May said as she hugged the girls.
What I wouldn't do to keep both of you. I wish you were ours For Jesse and Miles. For all of us.
You have to hurry and get away from here,
Winnie said with tears in her eyes.
Winnie!
Jesse said as he ran up to her.
Winnie, come with me, alright? There's nothing for you here. We can be together forever.
If she comes with us, they'll hunt us down. They'll never stop looking.
Tuck is right. If I go with you, it'll be too dangerous for all of you.
Jesse looked at her with tears in his eyes.
I can't go without you.
Winnie tearfully kissed him and hugged him.
You have to.
Go back to the spring. Drink from it. When it's safe, I'll come back for you.
Will you?
I have to show you the Eiffel Tower, don't I?
1,652 steps to the top.
Winnie, until we're together again, wake up with the dawn.
I will.
Lena looked over at Miles and Angus and May. After all of the events that had taken place, she knew that she could never be apart from any of them. Not when she had learned what it felt like to be loved after 16 years. She took Winnie's hands in her own.
Winnie, you'll always be my best friend. You know that. But I can't stay here.
At those words, all of the Tucks looked at her intently. Tears began rolling down Lena's cheeks.
I finally felt what it's like to have a family. I can't lose that now. I can't just go back to the way I was living, with parents who don't even want me.
Are you saying you want to come with us?
Lena nodded.
My parents want me gone anyway. I'll be doing them a favor in the end if I go with you.
Lena, if you come with us, you can't come back for many, many years. You know that, right?
Yes. And not being able to see Winnie will hurt me, but how can I stay when I'm in love?
Miles' head whipped over to her, and he immediately dismounted from his horse and went over to her.
You love me.
So much.
I love you too.
Lena turned back to Winnie, feeling her heart beating faster in her chest at hearing the words she had longed to hear ever since she could remember.
I told you at the beginning of the summer that when it comes to love, you just know. And right now, I know. When he's lost the woman he loves once, I can't put him through that again. I want to be with him forever.
She reached into her pocket and pulled out the vial.
Is that the water from the spring?
Lena nodded slowly.
Yes.
Lena, if you drink that water, you'll have to make sure you know the consequences of that decision.
I would rather spend every second of every day with you all than stay here with a family who doesn't even want me. I know what I'm doing. I've thought long and hard about it. I want to stay with you forever.
She put the vial to her lips and sipped the water. It tasted unlike anything she had ever put in her mouth before. It was incredible. She could feel its powers course through her body.
Winnie,
she said, taking the girl's hands again.
You have been the sister to me that I always wanted. You were there for me when I needed someone, and I can never thank you enough for that. I will always love you.
The two girls shared a tight and tearful embrace.
Come on, we gotta get out of here now.
Goodbye.
Bye.
They held hands as long as they possibly could before the space between them was too much and their hands slipped away from each other. She felt multiple tears slide down her cheeks as she mounted Miles' horse and sat in front of him.
Winnie Foster!
She heard Jesse call out as the cart took off.
I will love you till the day I die.
Well, Lena could not have been more heartbroken about leaving Winnie, the girl she loved more than anything. She was grateful that she could be with the Tucks, people who loved her for who she was, literally forever. Chapter 9, 1999. Lena took a deep breath and entered the room where a very old woman was lying down on a bed, obviously very close to her final days.
Hi, Winnie,
she said to the woman. The woman slowly turned her head and smiled at the girl at the door.
Lena Bennett, you haven't aged a day.
Thank you.
I guess I'm finally older than you, aren't I?
Nice try. I'm 104, still 4 years older than you.
Nonsense. You don't look a day over 19.
She looked over at the young girl and noticed something.
Is that a ring I see?
Lena smiled broadly.
Yeah, Miles and I got married about a year after we left Tree Gap. We ended up having 2 beautiful girls and a boy. Maddie, Olivia, and Ben.
How are they?
Lena knew very well what she was asking. She wasn't asking simply how they were getting along. She was asking if they were even alive at all and what age they were, if so.
When they were old enough to understand, we told them about the spring water and we allowed them to choose whether they wanted to drink it or not. None of them decided to. Maddie passed on a few years ago. Olivia too. Ben is about 78 now, and he is still as wild as ever.
What have you been doing?
Well, after we left, we found a place to stay pretty far from Tree Gap. We all stayed together for a while. Then after the wedding, Miles, Jesse, and I would all go away for 10 years and then reunite with Angus and May and spend some time together. Right now I'm alone. They don't even know I'm here.
It's hard to believe that Miles has found someone to love so much.
Lena smiled and fingered her ring.
We've had some arguments, but we love each other just as much as we did that one summer. But there will always be a huge part of him that loves his first wife. Just like there will always be a huge part of Jesse that loves you.
Has he found anyone?
The tone of her voice suggested she was almost afraid of the answer.
No, no one. He just hasn't found anyone that he loves as much as you.
Tears formed in Lena's eyes and began making strides down her cheeks.
He's missed you. We all have. Especially me.
Winnie smiled weakly.
I'm glad I got to see you. One more time.
Lena took Winnie's hand.
Me too. I love you, Winnie. And I always will. I promise.
I love you too, Lena. I always have. And I've never stopped thinking about you.
And I you. You will always have a special place in my heart. And just like me, that will never die.
She gently kissed her friend on the forehead.
Goodbye.
Lena left the room slowly, making the last moment she had with the woman she still called her sister never end. Once outside, tears freely flowed down her cheeks. Winnie was always her best and truest friend, and nothing, not even immortality, would ever change that. End of story.